The Razr is back, and it's back in the form of a foldable phone that we actually recommend. We recently sat down with Lexi Valasek, who heads up innovation research at Motorola, to find out how they're trying to stand out with a larger display and also the cheapest foldable yet. Lexi, why don't we just talk about the fact that, let's just face it, most phones today are very boring. How are you guys trying to shake things up?
Yeah, so it's exciting and it is fun and it is interesting, but it's also highly usable. So it's not just innovation to do innovation. It's really something that is helpful to the user in so many ways, most notably because it folds. It is compact and portable and easy to carry. But because we've expanded on that external display, it is also much more usable and much more functional. And so users can really take care of the things that they need to do throughout their day quickly and easily and seamlessly, some on the external display. And it doesn't, they don't always then have to open the phone to do all of the tasks that they need to do, which really helps them to kind of move through their day a bit more seamlessly.
So how important is having a 3.6-inch external display on the new Razr as opposed to what you've done before?
It is important to get that extra space. And we're even seeing, hey, is there an opportunity to go bigger, and how much bigger, and where's the line and where's the limit? For us right now, we've really made apps more usable. We've expanded capabilities so that someone can transition or choose when they want to transition their apps from the inside display to the outside display. We've also enabled full screen view, which allows the user to easily switch between an app going into full screen, taking over the entire display, which is really useful in particular for apps where you're showing a QR code, or in maps when you want to see just a bit more view of where you're walking or where you're driving. You get that extra space even with the full screen option, and it really does make a difference.
Or just checking in at the airport, right?
That's right.
In terms of the specs, like a lot of people think that getting a foldable phone sometimes means that they're making sacrifices in terms of the specs and overall features and performance. Is that the case here or not?
It is not the case here. We are advancing our specs with each generation. We're making improvements where we can, but we also want to make sure that we deliver on that beautiful fit in hand and how compact it is and just how it feels good when you're holding it. And so the size is very important, and it is still that great innovation, but we are advancing the specs and we're making it more like a phone, a premium phone that folds. And we're doing that in a number of ways. So some examples are 6.9-inch display on the internal device, main display, so that's larger for us. We have 1.5 times more batteries, so there's 3,800 milliamp hours in this phone, which packs a nice punch. It also has the 30-watt turbocharger, 5-watt wireless charging, and I've already talked about the additional features on the external display and the larger external display. So with each turn, we are getting more and more of a powerful device in something that's really compact.
And you mentioned battery life. I think that was one of the complaints with the first generation of flip foldables. Same thing with Samsung. And I think it's because you can only fit so much battery into something that folds in half. At the same time, the more that you allow the external display to do you think that that's going to result in power savings throughout the day?
Absolutely. So the less you have to open it up, the less you're powering that main display, the longer lasting it can be. Absolutely.
And in terms of your testing, I know it's a little bit early, but you know how like people open up their phone like 100 times a day or whatever? How many of those times, like percentage-wise, do you think people will be using the external display versus internal, just like throughout an average day?
Yeah, it's hard to know exact percentage because it is a larger display. We do expect them to use it more in this generation than previous generations, where maybe it's been 15 or 20%, and that might be a little generous, but I'm just guessing. We would expect that number to possibly increase, but of course it's user specific. So some users may spend more time in that outside display and others might spend less. But regardless, we've enabled a device that is flexible and powerful enough for both of those user types.
Okay, and then just a real quick, just because it is coming down the pike eventually, this is the Razr Plus. The regular Razr, which has been reimagined for a more affordable price point, will be coming later this year. I know you can't say anything about the price yet, But in terms of like trade-offs and other things that you need to make in order for that lower price, what do people need to know about the upcoming device?
Yeah, so it really is lovely in that we were able to retain a lot of the similar high quality elements from Razr Plus to Razr. You do have that smaller display, so you can't do as much. You know, you might close it to really close your phone and be done using it, as opposed to close it and then be able to do more interactions. But you can do basic tasks from the external display. You can see your weather, you can see your calendar, you'll be able to view notifications, the time, of course. You know, timer, recording, those types of activities will still be there, but you will have to open it to do more of the things that, you know, you would regularly want to do throughout your day. But even though we've taken things away, we've added certain things in lieu of that. So it has a smaller display on the outside, but it has a larger battery, 4200 milliamp hour, and we're able to give a larger main imager there as well.
It's 64 megapixels, right?
That's right. Yeah. Although this imager does still perform better as the higher quality, you know, product, but still, we're looking at ways to still make, even though we have something that will be meaningfully more affordable, it still is a high quality device.
So do you think that this could be a tipping point for the entire industry if it's received well, in terms of just getting the masses to adopt a foldable phone?
That's the hope, and that's why we've created this family tier of products, so that we can expand our reach, so that we can bring in more people within the market who might be unsure, and that they feel that they have more choices available to them.
And you do a lot of research.
I do.
What do your customers tell you about book-style foldable phones? Is that something that Motorola is interested in? And do you feel like you could shake up that part of the market too? I know one step at a time, but what do you think about those types of foldables?
Yeah, so I won't comment on Motorola's specific interest or investment in looking at the book type of foldable phones, but I have done research within both form factor spaces, so whether it vertically expands is what I would say, or horizontally expands. And there is a market for both, you know, especially, and they have different value propositions, they have different purposes, where the folding phone that expands to a phablet or a small tablet, if you will, is really for productivity. But oftentimes aspect ratios can be really difficult with that specific form factor. And possibly though, with Google's Fold, maybe more of the apps in that 1-to-1 aspect ratio might align better. That might pave the way in some instances. Whereas the vertical fold phone that becomes more pocketable, that's really the benefit, right? Is that pocketability. And so for us, it's important to make sure that even though we have something that's pocketable, we're still providing usefulness to that pocketability, and that it's not just easy to carry around, but it's also providing usability as well.
All right, Lexi, thank you for your time. So that's our behind the scenes look at the Motorola Razr Plus, and stay tuned for more news around the cheaper Razr coming later this year. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. For Tom's Guide, this is Mark Spoonhour.